I would say that you look at the mantra: food, water, energy security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. You look at those 8 pieces and you say, okay, where am I vulnerable? If it's somebody that has, say, a chronic illness, and I hope you don't, but I think one thing that we all need to be doing is eating to be as healthy as possible. We're addicted to garbage, generally speaking, but you need to really put your health first, in my opinion, because that's when you're strong enough, you can think clearly enough to make good choices that support your best interest. It's easier to control a population that's dumbed down or that can't think clearly than a population that is. And for so many people, look, we have been fed this lie since the day we were born. And what we're asking people to do is have a paradigm shift. And that means that they have to deny what they've believed to be true for their entire lives. And that's very hard for most people to do. You know, I have to say it really is about a balance, because you cannot be constantly thinking about all of this negative stuff. If that's what you put out into the universe, then unfortunately, that's what's going to show up more on your doorstep. And considering the fact that I've lived in this area in pretty much my whole life, on some level, pretty much my whole life, I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope when I see people like you, your age, that are starting to open their eyes, and I'm seeing more and more of that. So I think that, you know, don't be alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I think that's the biggest piece that people really need to understand, that you're not alone, and there's a lot of hope. I've not given up, and I can't tell you how many years people thought I was crazy. Well, I do the research to the powers that be. I don't go on, you know, weird websites that don't have the credibility. They are more honest about things when they're writing, because they know you're not going to take the time to read it. So there is hope, and there are more and more of us out there. If you feel like there's not hope, then come into the group where there is hope. You know, I only had that issue, thank goodness, one time in my life. And it was when I just lost all hope. And what I held on to were my children, because I couldn't do that to them. So find something that you care about more than you care about yourself. Actually, if I'm thinking about it, I cared about them a lot more than I cared about me. So find something that you care about. Get involved in a movement for more fairness. I mean, I think there is a growing movement out there. You know, I think it's really interesting. But again, you know, we've been born into a system and taught that the lie is the truth. So when a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over time, the truth will seem outrageous and the speaker a raving lunatic. That is not my quote, but it is a perfect quote. So it has actually been happening to you, Jake, and to everybody that's listening since the day you were born, through inflation, because inflation resets the value of the government money by design. So that the dollar bill that used to buy $1 worth of product, now 3 cents. That's all that's left officially. So you know it's worse than that. Less than 3 cents of the original value. The difference, and you know, I have this discussion with Eric or other people on a pretty regular basis, because for me, being alive in the 70s, inflation was a very dirty word, because we were dealing with 45% inflation during that time when they were going through the restructuring. So understand that resetting of the currency by design through inflation was part of the big experiment that started in 1913. When Nixon handed over, when he closed the gold window, which doesn't sound so bad, but what he really did was hand over inflation to the central bankers. The tool that they use to control the rate and speed of inflation are interest rates. Well, they're talking about, Fed Chair Powell is talking about tapering the bond purchases. All the money except this, and this is in digital form, because then where do you go? Then you go directly to barter. If you can't buy anything with their money, then you go directly to barter. And that is why gold and silver are really so important, because they are universally accepted. If you look at the Bank for International Settlements money flower, well, they have a little place for cryptocurrencies. They have the biggest space for CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and they have a bigger space, commodity money, gold and silver. They have a bigger space for that than they do for cryptocurrencies. I think that's really interesting, and I think that's also really telling. So, what I see is hyperinflating away the value of the money. We are already at a very critical point where confidence is being lost in that confidence loss is happening globally and is happening in a much more rapid way. That is dangerous for central banks and governments because it's a Ponzi scheme. So it requires public confidence. When the public loses confidence, then they have to back the currency with gold again to get that public confidence back. Because even though we've been trained not to think of gold as money, it's in our DNA. It's been real money far longer than government money has been. And so just like the fireside chat when Roosevelt, after the confiscation, and you can use the new money again because it's backed by good money, meaning the gold that they just confiscated from everybody. So this is something that's happened 100% of the time, because if you don't trust the currency and you don't trust the government and you don't trust the bankers, you're not using their money. You're bartering with your skills. You're bartering with your stuff, tangibles. You're bartering with things that people need and want, and that holds its value better than those pieces of paper or in digital form. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's the intent. Lose the value fast enough for people to notice it so they go out and they spend it.